Emergency podcast territory. The Marlins have made a trade and their DFA tracker is now up to 2. Jacob Amaya DFA'd. Manny Rivera has been acquired from the Diamondbacks. He was on waivers. The Marlins make a trade, sending over cash, probably limited amounts of cash, but they add Rivera, who will likely be joining the Marlins active roster real soon. Reaction to this trade, plus another potential waiver claim or trade possibility. A former stud catching prospect that I think the Marlins should absolutely be looking at in Joey Bart. Tons to get into on today's Locked On Marlins.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings from England and welcome to Locked On Marlins, your daily Marlins pod. I'm your host, Peter Pratt. Hit me up, of course, at Miami Marlins _UK. If you are listening to the pod, firstly, hello and welcome. It's Tuesday, the 2nd of April. Yes, the Marlins have still not won a game yet, but leave a review, subscribe wherever you get your pods. Try and say that better. Thanks for making Locked On Marlins your first listen as well. This is your team every day. Every day, baby. There is a YouTube channel as well, guys. Head on over there, hit subscribe on the YouTube channel. That is also called Locked On Marlins. I particularly encourage you to join the comments. They are spicy at the moment. As soon as there is Marlins drama, particularly underperformance on the field, then the comment section is where you should be. Nevertheless, I'm delighted to welcome into the house on a Tuesday. Yes, it feels a little bit funky. Nevertheless, though, the UK GOAT in the house, Shawnee B. How are we doing?
I'm doing well, Pete. We've got another 157 games to go. We've got another 6 months of baseball. This is what we asked for, right?
If you ask, you will receive, or whatever the saying may be. Yeah. There's a lot of games to play. And it's fair to say the Marlins have started a touch slower than maybe we had anticipated or hoped. But the interesting part here, Sean, is this roster, it's going to be a work in progress all year. So we're into that phase of the year, right at the start of the year, clearly, where guys haven't made the team. They're then DFA'd because they're out of minor league options, whatever it might be. So I've always thought that this would be a really interesting period for Peter Bendix. It's a time when he really would cook, scooping up dudes that are on the waiver wire, getting those, adding them, and just seeing how it goes. So this doesn't shock me, but we're 5 games in. Jonah Bride right now will be playing this evening, is starting this evening at third base. For game 6 for the Marlins, but the Marlins have acquired Emmanuel Rivera. I'm going to say it's Manny Rivera. That to me feels like it rolls off the tongue. They've acquired him from the Diamondbacks. He was on the waiver wire. The Marlins took no risks. They made a trade instead of just submitting a claim. And the corresponding move to that, to get him onto the roster, is to DFA Jacob Amaya. So big news, an emergency podcast for Manny Rivera. Sean, it's fair to say that one of the challenges in the first weekend and a bit for the Marlins specifically has been their defense. No doubt about it. And I must say, Manny Rivera, to me, fits the profile of what is necessary here. So your immediate reaction here on this trade, this acquisition, and what role you think that Emmanuel Rivera could play for the Marlins here the rest of the way?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, we came out of spring thinking that we're a bit light at third base. Obviously, Berger plays there, but they were talking a lot about sitting time at first and DH, and I think we'll see that. And obviously, Bertie was the number one option behind Berger since gone to the Yankees. So there was a bit of a hole left there. And Bride, was a bit uninspiring as far as a player. I think Manny Rivera brings at least one asset, and that is a very high level of third base defense. There's some interesting parts of the bat, but I'm not expecting anything overly amazing. Sort of 1995 WRC plus, good defense. He's a full season. He's probably about a 1.5 WAR kind of guy. So to get him for nothing in a position of need, it's a nice little pickup. Isn't going to move the needle. Isn't going to change the season. But it's just going to make the game look better optically for us as fans. And after the first 5 games, anything that will improve the product on the screen is certainly a welcome addition.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. It's definitely been not that aesthetically pleasing on the eye, particularly for a team that's built on pitching and defense. They've basically forgotten about the defense, and the pitching's being impacted. I think the thing that stood out to me with Manny Rivera, and I'm just going to roll with Manny Rivera as, moving forwards, feels easier. Feels sexier too, by the way. I'm all in on Manny Rivera now. But what stood out to me against left-handed pitching, he's pretty effective actually with the stick. And so what we've seen for sure early on with this, the Marlins lineups has been like a very definitive right-handed, lineup and a very definitive left-handed lineup. And what this is going to say to me is Manny Rivera will be starting at third base against every lefty moving forwards. And the stick to me looks fine against lefties. This is it. This is what we kind of expected with Peter Bendix, right? It's going to be ultra platoon guys, lefty specialists, short side platoon guys. And I think Rivera's going to fit into that perfectly. Like you said, the defense, he can still impact the game even when righties are on the mound, and being maybe brought into the game as a defensive replacement. So I think he gives more than Bride. Like, do you see this as an upgrade actually over Bride, both kind of defensively and maybe even offensively?
Yeah, you're right. It is a case of we need to use his particular skills, the defense and the bat versus lefties. And that is absolutely right. That's how the Rays have worked for years. They pieced together a mismatch patchwork of players that on the face of it don't look like a winning ball club and yet consistently win. And that's the thing. Like when they brought in Bethancourt and they talked about his pop time, I think they were really stretching to find a very niche positive to give to him. Here, you've got some actual, genuine, game-changing, solid things in that defense and that versus left hitting. So he is. Look, he was available on waivers or in this case a small trade to get the deal done quickly. For a reason. He was surplus to requirements. But there are some times where teams have that roster crunch. They have too much talent in a certain spot, or they just need to make a transaction. And the Marlins were in a position to lay claim, quite literally, and improve the ball club. So that's always a positive.
Yeah, I do see this as a positive. Like, this guy, there's been other guys that have been on the roster I've looked at and thought, man, even Vidal Brujan, to be honest with you, Brujan, Bride, probably the main protagonists, where you look at them going, they don't have any track record at the big league level. And I'd say with Manny Rivera, like, there absolutely is. So, this for me looks like a nice piece of Marlins business. Like you said, it feels very Rays. And I've got to hold my hands up. Like, I don't follow other clubs that closely, and particularly like short side platoon third base specialists. Absolutely. So I've never even heard of Manny Rivera or Emmanuel Rivera or anything. But on the face of it, this looks an interesting fit. So could be a nice piece of business here. Like I said, this felt like the time when Peter Bendix could come alive. And frankly, I don't think they're done. I can see particularly the way things have started as well, and particularly like the way the bullpen's already being stretched. I can still see more coming down the chute here in the next couple of days, couple of weeks. Like, this DFA tracker could be into triple digits by the end of the season. It could get kind of wild here for the fish. Any final comments on Manny Rivera? If not, then we're going to hit the ad. I'm going to talk about the kind of collateral damage here, which is Jacob Amaya, Sean.
No, we can move on. The only thing I would say is this is a kind of guy that's got that minor league track record where Bendix probably was scouting him and looking at him when he was with the Rays. So this isn't a guy that's just popped up and Bendix has gone, this is a guy I want to pick up. He's probably been tracking him in some way for a while.
All right, awesome. Well, let's hit the ad and then let's talk about Jacob Amaya, who has been DFA'd. Reminder on Jacob Amaya, he was acquired from the Dodgers in the Miguel Rojas trade only very shortly, not a long time ago. Supposed to be the future shortstop for the Marlins. DFA'd already. Man, oh man, that is for me the biggest news here in all of this. But before we do that, I'll let you know about our good friends over at Amazon Fire TV. All right, guys, Fire TV is your destination for sports. From live games to highlights to in-depth analysis, Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs, as well as the Fire TV stick that you can plug into your existing TV that provides access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's opening weekend for baseball or the college basketball tournament, you're going to want to have a Fire TV. And Fire TV, they recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. That includes all of us at Locked On and most of the big pro leagues and college conferences as well. Fire TV channels let you dive into all of the game analysis, highlights, and more to keep you up to date on all the latest in the world of sports. That's March Madness, it's the NBA, MLB, of course, and lots more. Not to mention, guys, the great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, and those Kim and cooking videos as well. Check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. Trust me on this. And to learn more, visit amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. All right, guys, back here with me, Peter Pratt, and the UK GOAT, Sean Barrett. We are reacting to the news that the Marlins have made a trade and acquired Manny Rivera from the Dbacks, who was on waivers. So this was a minor move in the grand scheme in terms of what had to go the other way, but looks to be a guy that will be on the active roster, has to be on the active roster, unless they try to put him back through waivers, and likely will be starting every day at third base against left-handed pitching, and probably a utility role as well. So, looks an interesting fit. The gut feel on this one, we're going to dig into the roster collateral damage. But what I would say is Jonah Bride, likely, who is starting this evening, likely will be optioned pretty shortly down to AAA until his next opportunity arises. I'd say Jonah Bride, he's been fine, serviceable maybe. No real standout, I'd say, from Bride. But nevertheless, he'll wait in AAA ready for his next opportunity, which will likely come at some stage. Sean, the biggest news here for me is Jacob Amaya being DFA'd. For me, there's a lot to unpack associated with this decision. Reminder, though, Amaya was the main return for Miguel Rojas in advance of last season when Miggy Rowe was moved as the club decided to take a culture change, let's call it, on that front. We are now just over 1 year since that deal, effectively. Your reaction to Jacob Amaya now being DFA'd. He has one option year remaining as well, so he could also be a claim candidate, I'd say, for other clubs looking to add some organizational depth at shortstop. And reminder as well, Jacob Amaya currently the number 9 ranked prospect per MLB Pipeline's list for the Marlins. So he's a top 10 prospect for the Marlins, and he's been DFA'd. Boy, oh boy, big news, this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Firstly, on that top 10 prospect, I think that just speaks to the level of the depth that the Marlins have at the minor leagues at the moment and why they are focusing on trying to improve that. But let's dig into Amaya. Yeah, a bit of a surprise, especially with that control. They've got that situation where they use him, bring him up, send him back down. The options are there. When he came over, we spoke a lot about him, and it was almost like we got younger Miggy Rowe for Miggy Rowe.
Yep.
You know, a genuine shortstop, maybe not as good defensively as Miggy was, but I think the bat was probably, and still I think the bat is probably an upgrade there on Rojas. The contact's there. He'll take a walk, double-digit walks percentage throughout the minors. He's a quality bat. He didn't have a great season last year in AAA, but he didn't have a bad year either. Not bad enough that the Marlins could sell so low on him. Also, I think hopefully the Marlins can, in the same way that they had to do a deal to get Manny Rivera, will be able to trade him away rather than just lose him on waivers. I think that'd be a small deal, something of value in return, because it's just a shame and a surprise. I think Amaya, I had hoped, was one of the guys that would come up in June, July, August, when the trades start happening, and get an opportunity to lay claim to the starting role next year, or at least see what they have in him at the major league level. But obviously that's now not going to happen unless he clears waivers miraculously. Can still happen, but yeah, I'd be very surprised if he's not with a different organization in the next couple of days.
I'm just going to throw something out there now on that topic. We're going to talk about this player after the second ad, so in the third segment here today, guys. But I just want to throw it out there right now. It would not stun me if the deal the Jacob Amaya situation becomes Jacob Amaya for Joey Bart, to be honest with you. Some sort of little deal there. Bart's on waivers anyway. Maybe there's discussions that have already been started. I don't know. But for me, we're going to talk about Bart in some detail. But just while you call it out, could there be a trade in the works? Could the Marlins look to get something back? Could the Giants be a fit there for Jacob Amaya? Wait and see. Eli Sussman's already put an article out, which I thought was, the headline was around Naz Nunez, and I thought was a really interesting one regarding Jacob Amaya. And, what he's basically calling out is this feels like poor roster management, where if there's an organization you view Amaya so lowly at this point, where you're effectively offering him for free, considering he's a top 10 prospect in your system, in a position where there's not any depth at all. Like, I know we've got a lot of infield depth as the Marlins, but none of them are shortstops. Not one of them can play shortstop. And Tim Anderson's on a 1-year deal. Spoke about this on the Fish on First stream in advance of opening day, which is why everything confused me about Birdie was like, where's your shortstop plan B? Like, what happens if Tim Anderson is hurt or putrid? Where's your plan B? It was Birdie. Maybe Manny Rivera could be that guy. But, Jacob Amaya is the next guy up effectively, like defensively anyway. And so for me, this was surprising. And this is where Eli was going, was if you didn't think of him that highly, then move on in advance of the Rule 5 situation and maybe protect Naz Nunez instead, who's, on the Nats active roster. So nice little article there from Eli. Go and check it out. And what this says to me, Sean, though, is really this roster will continue to be in flux ongoing. Like, again, this is just part of Peter Bendix's DNA, that an active roster and a 40-man roster and roster management is so fluid. And what we think we know about guys that are on the roster, the next day they can just be Kaiser Soze. They can just be gone. It's pretty wild, to be honest. But yeah, Jacob Amaya, you've mentioned he had a decent year in AAA. Had a lot of games there in AAA, particularly, and started playing at shortstop most times. He came up to the Marlins, did make his debut, did fine, I would say. His offensive stuff definitely ticked away as soon as he came up and went back down. It's like his offensive numbers kind of dropped away. But still, I'm really surprised that this is the move, to be honest with you. Like, and again, you're kind of thinking Jacob Amaya over Jonah Bride. Like, it's really interesting and kind of, just shines a light on really how Peter Bendix is going to operate and manage this roster, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You're looking at it and you're saying there's probably 2 to 5 guys on the 26 man and 5 to 10 guys on the 40 man who are wondering, am I going to be here tomorrow? And I think that speaks to the season, doesn't it? It's a season of working out what you've got, trying different things, trying to acquire guys that are going to help improve the ball club for next year, essentially. I think this is going to be, it's going to be a case of Bendis is going to be sort of going through the system and making changes and getting rid of guys that he's not interested in and bringing in guys that he is interested in. He's starting to slowly put his mark on this organization. And time will tell on how successful or not that is. But he's certainly making his mark being felt, especially today.
Yeah, for sure. Jacob Amaya, do you think he is with the Marlins in a, 10 days time period, whatever it might be? Think still with the Marlins or with a different organization?
I'd be shocked. If he's somewhere else,
Yeah, me too. I think Amaya's he's going to be gone. I think, to your point, and this may be it. This may be why at the moment we don't have the full picture. It maybe feels like there's something else that could be, happening here. Maybe like this could be interlinked. And so you kind of look at this scratching head going, why is Amaya being DFA'd? But actually, maybe more to come. And we'll talk about that. Actually, I'm with you though, Sean. I think Amaya's time with the Marlins is unfortunately done. And it doesn't surprise me in some ways because he didn't get much of a look in spring. His numbers kind of tailed off a touch. Feels like they've gone a different direction. They've got a ton of infielders, but to the point I made earlier, like there's so little depth at shortstop in this organization right now. That to me, I think is the most surprising aspect. Nevertheless, let's talk about a guy who is also available, potentially via trade, certainly via waivers right now, and a former top pick, number 2 overall, a former top, super hyped top prospect, and a guy that just, it didn't quite work out in San Francisco, and that guy is Joey Bart. For me, I think this is a really interesting name that suits the type of organization the Marlins are at right now, particularly considering he still has 4 years of club control remaining. And considering the Marlins catching position right now, both Fortes and Bethancourt, they've started slow. Bethancourt new to the organization as well. Could this be an interesting pickup here for the Marlins? So we're going to carry on that conversation. Before we do that, it's time to let you know about our good friends over at FanDuel. All right, guys, our good friends at FanDuel, of course. They would give me this graphics package. Producer, there you are. Thank you, producer. Sports calendar is loaded, and FanDuel's making it even more exciting to get in on the action. Because right now, new customers, yes, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 you can use to bet the tourney, MLB, NBA, NHL, and so much more. All you have to do is visit fanduel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a big win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All right, guys, final segment here with me, Peter Pratt, and the UK GOAT, Sean Barrett, an emergency podcast. The Marlins have made a trade, and they have DFA'd Jacob Amaya as well. Looks like they've added potentially their starting third baseman for any time they've faced any left-handed pitching the rest of the way in Manny Rivera. I want to talk about, Sean, Joey Bart. He is available. He is being DFA'd by the Giants. I think this was a move that was pretty obvious that was going to happen pretty early on in the offseason, which is why I was tweeting about Joey Bart at the time, thinking this could be a nice fit for the Fish. Nevertheless, he was DFA'd by the Giants. He's currently on waivers. Talk to me about where your head's at with Joey Bart. Clearly a big-name prospect. It hasn't worked out for him in San Francisco. Probably the timing and the pressure, and a lot goes into that in San Francisco, where you've got Buster Posey, legend. You're drafted as a Buster Posey replacement and probably accelerated accordingly, maybe a little bit too quick. Catchers take a bit of time to develop. So we're in a situation now where Bart DFA'd available, and should the Marlins be taking a look at this one? Should he be, he has to be on the 26 man as well, so there's no options remaining. So if he's claimed, either has to be on or pass through waivers again as a Marlin. So where's your head at with Joey Bart?
I think you've nailed it absolutely in every aspect. Number 2 pick, $7 million signing bonus, the heir apparent to Buster Posey, one of the greatest catchers ever, and certainly of our era. Top 1, 2. I think you'd have to put him in there. The accelerated. He hit everywhere at the minors, and you would say arguably that he deserved his opportunity when he came up as a very young catcher, but just never quite worked out, did it? The strikeouts went up, the walks, as low as they were in the minors, went even further down in the majors. Year after year ticked by, and not much really changed for him. He's now 26 years old. He's not old for a catcher, certainly. There's still an opportunity for him to have a serviceable major league career. And I think you're right when you look at what the Marlins have in Fortes, who, he has options. Bethancourt, I don't think anybody's overly excited by what they've seen from him so far. 5 games in, unless you maybe give him a chance. But if this year, if you think like I think, it's an opportunity to give guys an opportunity at the major league level and see what they can produce. This is a guy that has all the pedigree in the world, had proven everything he needed to prove at the minor league level. Even now, that sort of has gone by the wayside. His minor league numbers the last couple of years haven't been great either. But he's still a young for a catcher, former pedigree. Do you give him an opportunity? I would say with everything that's going on in this season, why not? any bounce back,
Why
any
not?
return to that former sort of pedigree that he has would be a huge upgrade. You're buying incredibly low. Any profit you get from that is well, pure profit. And if nothing happens, if he continues to perform poorly, what have you really given up? Well, maybe Jacob Amaya.
Yeah, exactly. When you look at what Joey Bart's done at the big league level, it's not been good. Just want to call that out. Like Joey Bart as a big, hence why he's been DFA'd. If the Giants saw any potential value at this point, they would likely not be in this situation. So Joey Bart has not been good. Let me just call it out. Christian Bethancourt, in my opinion, has not been good for a while either. Bethancourt, I know Sean already mentioned it. You've already mentioned it, where he was added because of a very specific role, and that is purely the arm. That's pretty much it. The interesting part around that, so let me just let you know where my head's at. With Joey Bart, we've got the multiple years of control. We've got the pedigree. And at this point, all you're doing is acquiring a prospect name and a pedigree. That's all you're doing, because the production thus far at the big league level has been way below par. Way below par. So that's where we're at. They've got 4 years of club control if they get him. And to Sean's point, if you can then create anything serviceable out of that, then great. Bethancourt's a stopgap at this point. We know that. The other thing about Bethancourt as well, which I think is interesting, is the way this Marlins rotation is shaped up early on, the 4 lefties in a row, that value, the need, actually, is kind of reduced, because when you've got lefties on the mound, they're able to manage the running game more effectively. And we've seen that. Like, teams haven't been running on the Marlins the first 4 or 5 games predominantly because, well, when you've got lefties going, it's harder to run on. So, maybe with this rotation, the way it's shaping up, maybe his value isn't as great. And the other thing, too, a lot of people will say, man, you don't really want to unsettle the staff on the rotation early in the year or any part of the year. You don't want to unsettle them. Frankly, right now, the rotation is so unsettled. For me, I don't think it would make a huge impact. And Bethancourt's new to the organization anyway. He's not caught anything for Braxton Garrett, limited from anyone. So for me, I look at this and think, this looks to me like an upside play where you've got a guy in Bethancourt that is absolutely replaceable. And is the drop-off to Joey Bart going to be there? I don't think there will. I don't think there'll be any drop-off. It's all profit at this point, in my opinion, all upside. I don't know. I fall in love with prospects now and again, and I won't let it go. Maybe Joey Bart, if it wasn't the name and you just looked at the profile, we would have no interest. But that's just not the way it works. So I can see a fit. I can see a fit here for the Fish because of the age, the profile, the control. It all sounds like a Rays kind of deal. The Marlins catching situation is definitely not a strength. And so I think it gives them an opportunity to take a flyer here, Sean, to be honest with you. And like I said, Jacob Amaya for Joey Bart, 1-for-1. Like, could you see that?
I could see it in the sense of why not? Because we know what Amaya's ceiling is, which is, a quad A shortstop. Bart is probably, his floor is a lot lower, but his ceiling is probably a lot higher. And why not take a punt on a season where the results aren't overly interested? As far as your love for high-level prospects, you don't wear that on your sleeve. You quite literally wear it on your chest. So I'm not surprised to see you interested in Bart for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. Where's your head at, though, in terms of the impact it would have to the starters? Because that is often the thing. And I remember last year when the Marlins were it was talking about upgrading at the catcher spot. They were in the hunt last year. And clearly Stallings, there was a problem. Fortes was improving defensively and has improved defensively, but offensively there was a problem. But Kim Ang spoke about it, just saying, actually, and okay, you got to take it with a pinch of salt, like anything that a GM says in the media. But what she was saying was, we'd prefer not to unsettle our pitchers and the staff that we have by making a change, behind the plate as well. And so being this early and the fact that Bethancourt's got such limited connection with any of the projected rotation, really, does that really matter anyway?
Yeah, I think you're right. It is a case of if any time to do it, is the best time to do it, it's now, because it's still early. You've got a lot of your pitchers away, and he can get that kind of familiarity, hopefully, very quickly. And again, it's a case of this year that the Marlins have very much proven what they want to get out of this season, and it's certainly not a successful season in my mind. So a Bart signing is not looking at this week or next month or this season. It's looking down the line. So yeah, I think it is obviously important, especially with a team built on pitching and defense. Although you're right, the defense isn't quite where it needs to be, but the pitching at the moment is so scattered about that it's gonna. Yeah, you're right. How many innings have they thrown to Bethancourt anyway already? Not many, I'm sure.
No, exactly. Well, we're gonna call it a day there, I think. Well, one final one to you, Sean, I guess. Just on the likelihood of Bart, give me like a 1 to 10 how good a fit and likelihood situation this could be for the Marlins.
It's I'd say 25%, just because obviously we're talking about one player in a sport of thousands, so that's still very likely. What I would say is, it's a case of Bart has that upside. It's a good fit in my eyes.
Yeah,
I'm already resigned for this season as a build-up season for 2025. This is the kind of move that would reflect that in my eyes.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I tend to agree on that front. So yeah, you maybe acquire Bart now, see what there is, try and work your magic with him, ready for full go in 25, and the remaining 3 years of club control he may have. So they've got a problem at catcher. They need to address it. Bart could address it, and the cost is super low or even free if they get him on waivers. But yeah, for me, make a little kind of minor trade, go and take the risk out of it. If you like the player, get it done. Guys, it's going to wrap us up. Thanks for joining me and the UK GOAT Sean Barrett on today's Locked On Marlins, an emergency podcast. They have made a trade and they have acquired Emmanuel Rivera, also known as Manny Rivera now. Jacob Amaya has been DFA'd and is now on waivers for now. Joey Bart equally remains on waivers. Could the Marlins do a deal there? I don't know. Wait to see on that one. Look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow, where we're actually going to be reacting to what we've seen thus far in the first 5 or so games and what the main takeaways have been. So UK Go back on rotation for tomorrow. Look forward to seeing you then.